But now I'm really curious to kind of dive into the heart of the matter, the pros and cons.
Yeah, let's start with what might be the most surprising aspect for those unfamiliar with unschooling, which is the potential for actually superior learning outcomes.
I have to admit, it does seem counterintuitive.
Mm.
How can ditching the structure and the curriculum of traditional schooling lead to better learning?
Well, think about it. When a child is genuinely curious and passionate about a subject, their learning becomes intrinsically motivated.
It's like the difference between forcing yourself to study a textbook and getting lost in a captivating novel.
Exactly. And without the constraints of a predetermined curriculum, unschooling allows children to delve deeply into subjects that truly fascinate them, exploring at their own pace and in their own unique way.
And the survey that we've been discussing highlights this beautifully with a quote from a parent who observed this firsthand. They said, "The children can delve deeper into subjects that matter to them, spend longer on topics that interest them. The children can participate in the real world, learn real life skills, converse with people of all ages. It's like their learning becomes an organic extension of their lives,
Right.
rather than a separate, often dreaded task."
And this organic approach often leads to another significant advantage, which is a more positive attitude towards learning.
Oh, interesting.
Unschooled children often retain that natural curiosity and enthusiasm for exploration that can get stifled in a traditional school setting.
So instead of viewing learning as a chore, they see it as an adventure.
Precisely. And this positive attitude can have a ripple effect throughout their lives, fostering a lifelong love of learning and a thirst for knowledge.
It's like they've developed those essential 21st century skills: critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability, without even realizing they were being taught them.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. The area where unschooling tends to raise the most eyebrows, social and emotional development.
Right, there's this prevailing assumption that unschooling will lead to isolated, socially awkward kids.
It's a common concern, but what's fascinating is that many unschooling families find their children are actually more socially adept and emotionally well-adjusted than their traditionally schooled peers.
Hold on. Really? How is that even possible?
Think about the social dynamics of a traditional classroom. Children are often grouped by age, creating a somewhat artificial social bubble.
Right, and there's a lot of emphasis on fitting in, conforming to peer pressure, and navigating those complex social hierarchies.
Exactly. Unschooled children, on the other hand, often interact with people of diverse ages and backgrounds in their everyday lives.
So instead of being confined to that age-segregated bubble, they're developing social skills organically through real-world interactions.
Precisely. And because they're not constantly bombarded with peer pressure and social comparisons, they often develop a stronger sense of self and a more authentic way of relating to others.
One parent in the survey shared a particularly insightful observation about this. They said, "They are extremely smart and well-educated, but I think that would be true if they had gone to school. I think the biggest difference is that they know themselves better than we did at their age. They may be a little closer to their true path in life. That was certainly our hope, and if it turns out to be true, it's worth a lot." It really speaks to the potential for unschooling to foster self-awareness and independence.
And these positive effects often extend beyond the individual child, strengthening family bonds in ways that are difficult to achieve within the constraints of traditional schooling.
Yeah, it's easy to imagine how unschooling could bring families closer. Family outings become learning adventures. Dinner conversations revolve around fascinating topics. And even everyday chores can turn into collaborative projects.
Absolutely. And one parent in the survey perfectly captured this sentiment, saying, if you build up your family life where members work together and help one another, where the focus is on happy learning, it's hard not to get along and enjoy each other's company. It paints a heartwarming picture of a family united by shared experiences and a love of learning.
Of course, we can't ignore the practical advantages that often draw families to unschooling, particularly the freedom and flexibility it offers.
Imagine a life without the tyranny of school bells, homework deadlines, and standardized testing schedules.
The freedom. No more frantic mornings rushing to catch the bus. No more battling over homework at the dinner table. No more feeling like your life revolves around the school calendar.
Unschooling families can create a rhythm that truly works for them, whether that means sleeping in late, traveling spontaneously, or simply dedicating more time to pursuing their passions.
It sounds incredibly liberating. But as with any approach, unschooling isn't without its challenges. What are some of the downsides families need to consider?
Perhaps the most significant disadvantage, and one we touched upon earlier, is the social pressure unschooling families often face.
Right. It's like swimming against the current. constantly having to explain and defend your choices to a world that often views traditional schooling as the only acceptable path.
Imagine facing skeptical relatives who question your child's education, encountering judgmental strangers who assume your kids are missing out, or even dealing with well-meaning friends who offer unsolicited advice. It can be emotionally draining.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage and resilience to stand firm in your convictions when you're constantly being questioned or criticized.
And this pressure can also impact children, who might feel different or isolated from their peers who attend traditional schools.
That makes sense. While unschooling can provide a rich and diverse social life, it can also require extra effort to find like-minded friends and create those opportunities for connection and belonging.
Exactly. It often involves actively seeking out other unschooling families, joining homeschooling co-ops, or exploring activities in groups that align with the child's interests.
Another potential disadvantage, and this one is particularly relevant in today's world, is the significant time commitment required from parents, often requiring one parent to stay home or work fewer hours to facilitate their children's learning.
Yeah, unschooling is often a lifestyle choice. That requires a substantial investment of time, energy, and resources.
It's not just about letting kids do whatever they want. It's about actively creating a rich and stimulating learning environment, facilitating opportunities for exploration, and being present and engaged in their children's journeys.
And this can be particularly challenging for single parents, families with multiple children, or those facing financial constraints that limit their flexibility.
It highlights the reality that unschooling, while incredibly rewarding, is a privilege that not all families can realistically afford.
And let's not forget the internal challenge, the process of deschooling your own mind, which we discussed earlier.
Right. It's about unlearning those deeply ingrained beliefs about what education should look like and embracing a completely different paradigm.
It can be incredibly difficult to shake off the fear that your child will fall behind if they're not following a prescribed curriculum or hitting those standardized benchmarks.
Especially in a society that often equates academic achievement with success.
It requires a leap of faith, a trust in your child's innate capacity to learn, and in the power of self-directed exploration. And it's an ongoing process, a constant battle against those societal expectations and those nagging doubts that inevitably creep in.
So while unschooling offers a wealth of potential benefits, it's not a decision to be made lightly. It's crucial for families to carefully consider the challenges and sacrifices involved and to ensure that everyone is on board and committed to making it work.
But despite these hurdles, many unschooling families find that the rewards far outweigh the risks. They witness their children blossoming into confident, self-directed learners, their families growing closer, and their lives filled with a sense of purpose and joy that often eludes those trapped in the rigidity of traditional schooling.
It's a testament to the power of challenging conventional wisdom and embracing a different vision of education, one that prioritizes curiosity, freedom, and the unique needs of each child.
But what happens when these unschooled children grow up? How do they fare in the real world, particularly when it comes to college and careers?
That's the million-dollar question, and one we'll be tackling head-on in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned as we uncover the long-term outcomes of unschooling and challenge some common misconceptions about what it means to succeed in life. Welcome back to our final segment on unschooling. So far, we've explored, the diverse approaches families take, the motivations behind their choices, the unique advantages and disadvantages they encounter along the way. But there's one big question that lingers, the one that often fuels skepticism and debate. What about the future?
It's the question that inevitably arises. How do unschooled children navigate the real world, especially when it comes to higher education and careers?
All right, it's understandable that people have these concerns. Our society is so deeply rooted in this belief that a traditional education is the only pathway to success.
Yeah, it's true. The structured curriculum, the standardized tests, the college admissions process, it's all designed to kind of funnel students towards a certain definition of achievement.
So how do unschooled children who've essentially forged their own unique learning paths, how do they fit into this system?
Well, research specifically focused on the long-term outcomes of unschooling is still kind of emerging. However, we can glean valuable insights from studies on homeschooled students, a broader category that encompasses unschooling.
That makes sense. After all, both groups share the commonality of learning outside the traditional classroom.
Exactly. And what we're seeing in this research is quite remarkable. Homeschooled students, when they choose to pursue higher education, often excel in college.
Really? That kind of challenges the stereotype that they'll be unprepared for the rigors of academia, or that they'll lack the necessary study skills.
Yeah, it's a common misconception, but think about it. The skills unschooling fosters self-directed learning, critical thinking, problem-solving resourcefulness. These are precisely the qualities that lead to success in college and beyond.
It's like they've been honing these skills their entire lives, even without the structure of traditional coursework.
Precisely. And some studies have even shown that on average, homeschooled students score higher on standardized tests like the SAT and ACT than their traditionally schooled counterparts.
So not only are they not disadvantaged, they might actually have a leg up in certain areas.
And this success translates into the workforce as well. There's a growing number of unschooled adults who are forging fulfilling and successful careers in diverse fields.
It's inspiring to see them kind of breaking free from those narrow societal expectations and proving that there are multiple paths to success.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that success isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. It's not solely defined by, a prestigious college degree or a high-paying corporate job.
Right. It's about finding work that's meaningful and engaging and aligned with your passions and values.
And many unschooled individuals prioritize work that allows them to continue learning and growing and making a positive contribution to the world.
It seems that unschooling, rather than hindering their prospects, might actually equip them with the adaptability and resilience needed to thrive in a rapidly changing world.
Yeah, it's about cultivating those core competencies, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, that are essential for navigating the complexities of modern life.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into unschooling, it's clear that while it may not be the right fit for every family, it certainly challenges us to kind of rethink our assumptions about education and success.
It reminds us that learning can happen anywhere at any time, and that the most valuable skills are often cultivated outside the confines of a traditional classroom.
It's about trusting in a child's innate curiosity, nurturing their unique passions, and empowering them to become lifelong learners who forge their own paths in the world.
We hope this deep dive has provided you with a fresh perspective on education and maybe sparked some thought-provoking questions and perhaps even inspired you to challenge the conventional wisdom surrounding how we learn and how we define success.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those minds open.